Hi and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is Ashley you once again, and I'm here to take you through all of the European games that happened this week. The first legs of the last 16 of the Champions League and the second legs of the last 32 ties in the Europa League. I'll also go through the draw for the last 16 of the Europa League as well, and giving my predictions as to who will go through from each tie. So, first up, it was the Champions League on Tuesday night, the last 16 first legs. It was Atletico Madrid against Chelsea at the National Arena in Bucharest, a neutral venue of course, and it was Chelsea who came away with the victory, and you could argue deservedly so, given they were the more dominant side in the tie. The tie was settled, the first leg should I say, was settled by a brilliant overhead kick from Olivier Giroud to give Chelsea a crucial away goal and the advantage heading back to Stamford Bridge for the second leg. I was very disappointed by Atletico's approach to the tie. I know they've been struggling of late in La Liga, but this was a game whereby they could have took the game to Chelsea had they been more positive, but they sort of reverted back to their usual style of trying to sit in, soak up the pressure, and then try and hit Chelsea on the break, and it just didn't work out for them as well as they hoped. Simeone will have questions to answer, but I'm sure he'll still be optimistic that his side can turn it around in the second leg, but they've got work to do if they want to reach the quarterfinals. It's not really a good result for Atletico this, but a great one for Chelsea, and they feel they might have one foot in the quarterfinals of the Champions League under Thomas Tuchel, but the tie's still far from over, given there's only one goal in it. And then the other tie on Tuesday night, it finished on Lazio 1, Bayern Munich 4. Bayern Munich had questions about their form going into this game, given their recent struggles in the Bundesliga, whilst Lazio were flying high in Serie A, but the tie went true to the form book. Bayern Munich were at their ruthless best, destroying Lazio with and looking like they were going to score with every attack they put against the Italian side. They did take an early lead off through Robert Lewandowski after a terrible mistake by the defender. Didn't even look to see where the goalkeeper was, and presented it on the plate to Lewandowski. And from then on in, it was really pretty much downhill for Lazio. They conceded a second through the Jamal Musiala, who recently chose to play for the Germany national team over England, so bit of disappointment for the Three Lions, but I'm sure the Germans won't care and they'll be pleased to see him get on the score sheet. It was a wonderful finish by the teenager, firing it into the bottom corner past the Lazio keeper Pepe Reina, and Bayern Munich were well on their way. They did add a third before the interval through Leroy Sané, who followed up after a shot was saved by the keeper, and then they scored a fourth early in the second half, an own goal. It was for a chirby and pretty much game and tie done really, even though Lazio did pull one back a few moments later through Joaquin Correa, but they have a mountain to climb. Lazio 4-1 down, looks like there's no way back for them, and Bayern Munich are pretty much through to the last stage of the Champions League. I know we've seen some upsets in this competition in the past, but looks 4-1 up. They need to concede at least 4 goals to have a chance of being eliminated. It doesn't look like it's going to happen, so Bayern Munich look like they're heading through to the quarterfinals of the Champions League. And then on Wednesday night, it finished Mönchengladbach 0, Manchester City 2. City were heavy favourites going into this tie and look like they've got one foot in the quarterfinals of the Champions League. This tie was played at a neutral venue in Budapest, the same stadium where Liverpool played Leipzig the week beforehand. City were pretty comfortable throughout, and Mönchengladbach didn't offer much of a threat going forward. They were set up really just to try and limit the damage, pretty much. They didn't really want to get thrash-eyed, to be honest, and that was reflected in their approach. Never really came forward looking to cause City trouble in their defence, and Pep Guardiola and his side were pretty comfortable throughout. They scored in either half for I think it was Bernardo Silva in the first half and then Jesus in the second, and looks like it's pretty much tie done in that one. I know it's only 2-0, but the way Mönchengladbach played in this one, I can't really see them overturning this deficit. So City look like they're heading through to the quarterfinals. And maybe Real Madrid look like they're on their way there as well, despite the fact they only won 1-0 against Atalanta and Bergamo. Atalanta's approach was pretty much determined by the early red card for Remo Freuler after he fouled I think it was Ferland Mendy when he was through on goal. Last man, maybe there was a bit of controversy given that fact that was there really a clear goal scoring opportunity, but given the fact he was last man, you may feel that it was just the red card was justified, and that pretty much meant that Atalanta had to try and sit back and soak up as much pressure as possible from Real Madrid. Not surprisingly, Zinedine Zidane's side did all of the pressing, but they had to wait until near the end to finally get the goal. Ferland Mendy with a curling shot from the outside the box following a short corner routine, and Madrid had their win, but they'll feel given the man advantage they had for almost just over 70 minutes, that they should have more than the 1-goal lead heading back to the Bernabeu. But Atalanta also feel that they could have got after Real Madrid even with a man disadvantage, because if you look at the Madrid lineup, they had key players missing, Benzema and Sergio Ramos, and the fact they're expected to be back for the second leg means that even though that Atalanta have been brilliant on the road in this competition, it's still going to be difficult for them to turn the deficit around and go through from this tie. So Madrid look like they're heading through to the quarterfinals, even though it's only 1 goal to the good for them. And that concludes all of the last 16 ties, first legs of the last 16 ties. 7 of them were won by the away side, with the other one won by Porto, but they conceded an away goal. So there's a possibility that all 8 of the group winners, teams who finished top of their groups, could go through to the quarterfinals, which for me I don't really like, because of the fact that I actually want to see some unseeded teams do well in this competition, the underdogs should I say, and go as far as possible in this competition. I mean, some ties look to be already done. PSG against Barcelona, City against Gladbach, and Lazio against and Bayern Munich against Lazio. Some of those ties look to be done and dusted, whilst for others, there's still hope for the side who lost the first leg, but they really need to buck up their ideas and try and do something different if they want to have any chance of going through. So, still all to play for some teams, but for some others it looks like their European journey is going to come to an end, even though they've still got the second leg to play. And then moving on to the last 32 of the Europa League, 16 ties were played on Thursday night to decide should I say 15 ties, given there was one that was played on Wednesday night as well. That was Tottenham against Wolfsburger. Spurs were 4-1 up from the first leg, and they pretty much cemented their dominance of the tie with another 4 goals. I think Vinicius scored twice, Bale got on the score sheet as well, and I think Lucas Moura got the other goal as well. So it was pretty much a comfortable evening for Spurs. They were through. pretty much after the first leg, and they've pretty much wiped the floor with the Austrian side Wolfsburger. So comfortable tie for them, and 8-1 on aggregate, which is a good job for Jose Mourinho and his men. And then moving on to the ties on Thursday night. First up, I'll get the scores up now. As they load. First up, Ajax beat Lille 2-1 in Amsterdam to complete a 4-2 aggregate victory. They had the control after the first leg in France, winning 2-1, and they pretty much sealed the deal in early on. David Klaassen with the first goal for them, and they looked in control, but Lille did give themselves hope of turning the tie around them. Yazici from the penalty spot with 12 minutes left, but the Dutch side sealed the deal 2 minutes from time through David Neres, and Erik ten Hag's side, who dropped down from the Champions League, now go through to the last 16. As for Lille, they'll look to try and put that disappointment behind them and try to win the French title. So Ajax are through to the last 16. Napoli are out, even though they beat Granada in the second leg by 2-1. But the fact they lost 2-0 in the first leg meant they had pretty much everything to do, and they couldn't turn the tie around. They did take the lead very early on through Zielinski, but conceded a crucial late goal later on through Montoro, and then even though Fabian Ruiz did manage to pull another one back in the second half, it wasn't enough, and Granada in their first season in European competition are through to the last 16, and it's big disappointment for Napoli and their manager Gennaro Gattuso, who's under a lot of pressure after recent results. Finished Shakhtar Donetsk 1, Maccabi Tel Aviv 0. Shakhtar pretty much won this tie in the first leg from being 2-0 up, and they secured the second leg victory for a penalty from Junior Moraes, and they'll be one of the sides to look out for in the last 16 of the competition. They're another side to have dropped down from the Champions League, despite the fact they beat Real Madrid home and away in the group stage. And they'll be looking to make progress in this competition, as will Rangers, who completed a thrilling 5-2 win over Antwerp in the second leg to win the tie at 9-5 overall. The first leg was thrilling enough, 4-3 to the Scottish side, and the second leg was pretty much the same. Rangers took an early lead through Morelos, but Antwerp did equalise before half-time through Rafalov, but Rangers ran away with it in the second half with goals from Nathan Patterson, Ryan Kent, Barisic and Cedric Itten, the latter two from the penalty spot. And even though you could say it was comfortable enough for Rangers, the fact they've conceded 5 goals over the 2 legs will be a bit of a concern for Steven Gerrard's side, and they really need to improve in that department if they want to go far in this competition as well. So a good tie overall for Rangers, but work still for them to do, you would imagine. Another British side, Arsenal, needed a late winner to get past Benfica. The tie was 1-1 heading into the second leg in Athens, not the Emirates Stadium due to COVID restrictions, and Arsenal did get off to a good start through Aubameyang, but conceded just before half-time for a brilliant free kick from Gonçalves, and then pressed the self-destruct button on the hour mark when Dani Ceballos headed straight to Rafa Silva, who was through on goal, and he just slotted it past the keeper. And 2-1 down, Arsenal had it all to do. Benfica had 2 away goals as well, so Arsenal needed to score twice to get themselves through. They did quickly respond through Kieran Tierney, And then with 3 minutes to go, Aubameyang headed in the cross from Bukayo Saka to get that all-important third for the Gunners. And just when you thought that Arsenal's season was going to peter out to a disappointing conclusion, they're still alive and kicking in Europe, and they'll be one of the favourites for the Europa League, given there's no real big teams in there. I know there's Manchester United, and AC Milan as well, but Arsenal will feel they're up amongst them, up there as amongst the contenders to win Europa League. But they'll need to do better than what they did over the 2 legs against Benfica if they're to stand any chance of going all the way. And then one of the surprise results finished Hoffenheim 0, Mulder 2. A bit of a shock, that one. Hoffenheim had the slight advantage given they drew 3-3 in the first leg, and they failed to complete the job at home after losing a goal in each half to Eric Anderson. Scored in the 19th minute, and then as Hoffenheim were pushing forward for an equaliser, he tucked away the second in the 94th, and Mulder of Norway are through to the last 16. They were in Arsenal's group in Europa League, and they'll be one of the teams that many people would want to play, given the fact they're pretty weak. And I know they didn't show it in this tie, but they're still one of the weakest teams left in the competition, and maybe some of the bigger teams would want them in the latter stages of the competition. But a good night overall for them. Villarreal, the final tie of the early kick-off finished Villarreal 2, Salzburg 1. Villarreal had the advantage, 2-goal advantage from the first leg in Austria, and even though they fell behind early on through Berisha, 2 goals from Gerard Moreno saw them turn the second leg around to win quite comfortably in the end. So they're another side to look out for in the last 16, managed by Unai Emery, of course, so who's knows how to win this competition, having won it 3 times with Sevilla, so they could be dangerous opposition for whoever they come up against in the last 16. And then moving on to the later kickoffs, another surprise, Leicester City of the Premier League losing at home to Slavia Prague to 2-0 to go out by the same score in aggregate. After a 0-0 draw in the first leg in the Czech Republic, Leicester fans would feel that that's a decent result for them, but you always knew that without the away goal that they'd be susceptible to leaving themselves with a bit to do, and that's exactly what happened in the second half. They conceded quite early on. Lucas Provod with the first goal, and that meant that Leicester needed to score 2 goals to go through, and with 11 minutes to go, Abdallah Sima added the second to pretty much seal the tie, and it's a disappointing night for Brendan Rodgers and Leicester City overall, who now have to focus on trying to get themselves into the Champions League next season via the Premier League. But as for Slavia Prague, they march on, as well as AC Milan, even though they survived by the skin of their teeth, drawing 1-1 against Red Star Belgrade to progress through on away goals after a 3-3 draw in aggregate. The Italian side did take an early lead through Frank Kessie from the penalty spot, and it looked like being a comfortable evening for them, but fair play to Red Star, they stuck at it and levelled on night through Ben Nabuhan, and they came close on several occasions to getting that all-important second goal, but once they went down to 10 men quite late on, they found it quite difficult to break Milan down, and as a result, Stefano Pioli's side are through to the last 16. As are Manchester United, who pretty much wrapped up their tie after the first leg, 4-0 up from the first leg, and they drew 0-0 in the second leg in what was pretty much a non-event. Real Sociedad did have a chance to take an early lead from the penalty spot, but they fluffed their lines, and that was pretty much tie over for them. So United threw us comfortable 4-0 winners in aggregate. Dynamo Kiev pulled off a bit of a shock, to be fair, beating Club Brugge in Belgium after only drawing 1-1 in the first leg. Bruges knew that a 0-0 draw would have been enough for them to go through, but they conceded with a few minutes left for Boyalski, who scored his second goal of the tie, and that was enough for the Ukrainians to go through to the next round. And Roma, another team side who won their tie quite comfortably, beating Prague 5-1 after a 3-1 victory in the second leg. 2-0 up from the first leg, they were in control, and they pretty much cemented their advantage with goals from Edin Dzeko, Carlos Perez and Borja Majoral in stoppage time. Braga's goal was through an own goal from Brian Cristante, but they weren't really in the tie at all. And Roma are another side to look out for in the last 16 of the Europa League. And then Bayer Leverkusen lost 2-0 at home to Young Boys to go out 6-3 on aggregate. This was a tie where I thought that Leverkusen would come good when the draw was made in the lot for the last 32, but since the turn of the year they've really fallen off the cliff quite a lot, and their downturn in form was highlighted in this game. Young Boys kept the scores level at half time and then capitalised as Leverkusen got desperate, looking for the crucial first goal of the second leg, and Young Boys sealed the deal with goals from Sebachu and Christian Fasnacht to make it through to the last 16. Real disappointment for Leverkusen, that, but a good night for Young Boys in that sense. It was a really good job done by them. Really good job, well done by them. And Dinamo Zagreb, they progressed after a 4-2 aggregate victory over Krasnodar. They were 3-2 up from the first leg, and they added another goal through Orsic in the second, and that was pretty much game over. And Krasnodar needed 3 goals to have a chance of getting through at that point, but they didn't really look like scoring, finding the back of the net, and Dinamo Zagreb advanced to the last 16. And then the final tie of the round of 32 finished PSV 2, Olympiacos 1, but Olympiacos go through 5-4 in aggregate. PSV looked to be heading through on away goals after 2 goals in the first half from their main man Aaron Zahavi, but they conceded with a couple of minutes left through Ahmed Magoob, and Olympiacos are through to the last 16 of the Europa League. And so that completes the last 32 of the Europa League. Some big sides have gone out of the competition early, while another few are still remaining in this competition. And that's where we head to the last 16 of the Europa League. The draw was made on Friday, and there was some interesting ties that came out from the draw. First up, it was Ajax against Young Boys. Ajax, with the richer European pedigree, are favourites to advance to the last 8. But don't underestimate Young Boys after they comfortably dispatched of Bayer Leverkusen. So that could be a potential banana skin for Erik ten Hag and his side, but you still expect them to get through to the next round given their richer European pedigree and the fact they have slightly superior quality than their opponents. So for my prediction for this tie to go through, I think it will be Ajax to reach the last 8 at the expense of Young Boys. And then the second tie that came out was Dynamo Kiev against Villarreal. Dynamo Kiev needed a late goal to get through to this stage, whilst Villarreal were comfortable winners in their tie. And even though the Spanish side have been struggling domestically in La Liga, you still feel they are favourites to get through from this tie, given their superior. Once again, they have superior European pedigree over Dynamo Kiev, and so I think they'll be the ones who make it through to the last stage as well. And then this is a tie that will be very difficult to call. Roma against Shakhtar Donetsk. Two sides look evenly matched in terms of quality. Paulo Fonseca, I think, who's the Roma manager, faces his former club, so it'll be interesting to see how he fares. And even though many people think that Roma will go through, don't underestimate Shakhtar Donetsk, particularly as we saw what they did to Real Madrid in the Champions League group stage. So, and the fact they drew twice with Inter Milan as well, so they're not a side to be underestimated. But if I were to pick a team to go through from this one, I would actually say Shakhtar Donetsk over Roma, actually, because I think that even though Roma have been doing well in this competition, they're struggling a bit domestically. I don't know where they are in the league. I think they're fourth, actually. And Shakhtar Donetsk, they know when they play against like these big European teams, they seem to be up for it. So I actually think they'll go through at the expense of Roma. I may be wrong, but my feeling is that Shakhtar will be up for it and will be looking to play their way through to the last stage. So I think they've got good players, Shakhtar, and I think they can really cause a bit of an upset and knock out Roma as well. Roma in this time, and then this one, Olympiacos against Arsenal, brings back quite bad memories for the Gunners, given the fact that the Greek side knocked them out of this competition last season in the last 32. So there's a chance for Arsenal to gain their revenge. They look better than they compared to last season. Arsenal, I know they're struggling domestically, but in this competition they've performed very well, and I expect them to carry that form on against an Olympiacos side who needed a late goal to get through against PSV. So if I had to pick a winner, I'd say Arsenal will go through to the last stage. And then Dinamo Zagreb against Tottenham. Spurs are heavy favourites to win this game, even though Dinamo Zagreb are a pretty good side. But Spurs' richer European pedigree, having recently been to the Champions League final, makes them favourites to get through. When the draw was made, it was Dinamo Zagreb who were picked first, ahead of Tottenham, but the order of the two legs has since been reversed, given the fact that if the first legs were played in the order that the teams were drawn, Arsenal and Tottenham would play their second legs on the same night, and given the fact the two teams are in close proximity to each other, then you can't really have both teams who are in close proximity to each other playing at home on the same night. And given the fact that Arsenal won the FA Cup last season, it meant that Spurs had to have their two legs arranged instead of Arsenal. So in fact, Spurs will have to play the first leg at home instead of Dinamo Zagreb. But even though that might cause some difficulties, I still think Spurs should get through from this tie. So I'm going for Spurs to go through. But don't rule out Dinamo Zagreb pulling off an upset or two. And then this is a standout tie of the round, without doubt. Two former European champions in Manchester United and AC Milan go head to head in the Europa League. Two of the favourites to win this competition, and even though both sides are performing quite well domestically, I'm sure both will want to win this competition to try and competition to try and get some bit of silverware for their clubs. I know both teams are on course to qualify for the Champions League via their domestic league, but for two big clubs not having who it's been a while since they've both won a trophy, it'll be nice for either of them to go all the way and win the Europa League. Milan have struggled a bit domestically and in Europe. They haven't won in their last 4 games in all competitions, and even though United have been a bit patchy themselves in the league, you feel that with their experience of getting through to the Europa League semi-finals last season, that they should get the better of AC Milan. But I wouldn't be surprised if Milan come up trumps in this one. So in that sense, I'm going to go for Manchester United to go through from this tie. And then Slavia Prague face Rangers. Rangers will feel that's a decent draw for them, but they'll have to be wary of the Czech Republic's side from the Czech Republic, given how they performed against Leicester in the last round as well. So it will be interesting to see how Steven Gerrard approaches this tie, given the fact that Slavia Prague are a very dangerous team. Rangers will know that they have to score in the first leg in Czech Republic, because we all know that if they don't, then there's every chance that they could concede in the second leg at Ibrox, and that will play it very much into Slavia Prague's hands. And Slavia Prague's defence is also much more solid than Rangers at this moment in time. I know Rangers have been very strong defensively in the domestic league, but in Europe they seem to have leaked quite a few goals, particularly in that thrilling tie against Antwerp as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if Rangers got through from this one, given the presence of Steven Gerrard and what he can do on European nights. But the fact that there's no fans at Ibrox for the second leg means I think that Slavia Prague have the slight edge in this one. So I'm actually going to go for a Slavia Prague victory over the 2 legs. I may be wrong, but that's my feeling for this tie. And then the last tie that was drawn out was Granada against Mulder. Arguably two of the weakest sides left in the competition. Both did very well to get through their round of 32 ties, knocking out higher quality opposition in Napoli and Hoffenheim respectively. And you feel that whoever gets through from this tie, then all of the big teams will want to face them in the quarterfinals. But as we all know in football, you can't underestimate any team, regardless of how bad or good it is. You've got to take them seriously, and I think whoever gets through from this tie will feel that it's been a really good European run. I know Mulder have the potential to upset Granada, given the fact the Spanish side aren't particularly having a great season in La Liga, but I think that Granada, given the fact that they performed very well to beat Napoli and then they beat PSV in the group stage as well, I think they'll have the slight edge over Mulder. So I'm going for a Granada victory over the 2 legs. So that's it for my reaction to the last 16 draw of the Europa League. There's some interesting ties to look forward to in this competition, and that concludes the last 2 weeks of European football that we've seen. I hope you enjoyed watching my content so far on this YouTube channel, and I'll be looking to produce more after the European competitions take a 1-week break, before the second legs of the Champions League last 16 ties and the first legs of the last 16 ties of the Europa League take place. And I look forward to reviewing and previewing all of the action that takes place across the next few weeks and seeing which teams make it through to the quarterfinals of both competitions. I hope you're enjoying watching my videos, and I look forward to seeing you all soon hoping to produce more of this content, if not better. So I hope you're enjoying it, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. I'm out of here.